January got off to a slow start, although it is always good to see the normal winter species, such as this male long-tailed duck at swim point on the 8th of January. A handsome horned grebe was at Northeast Point on the 11th of January, and a dovekie was a welcome sight at Swim Point on the 16th. Perhaps more surprising was this northern harrier, a rather unexpected yard bird, on the 21st of January. Yarmouth kicked off February with Bohemian waxwing at Chebogue and hooded merganser at Bunkers Island, both on the 6th. Short-eared owl was present at Sunday Point, Yarmouth on the 17th. A twitch to Liverpool on the 4th of March for a fine singing Carolina wren was very enjoyable. An old favourite, the Grey Heron overwintered at Argyll. We caught up with it again on the 8th of March. A Nova Scotia tick-newt swan was a long-staying rarity at Pinckney's Point. We saw it several times, the last occasion on the 8th of March, when it obliged for a few pictures. For anyone who spent their formative years in the UK, it was one of the more underwhelming Nova Scotia ticks.
Does it get much better?
Not a tick, but a Lapland longspur is always worth a look. April and the breeding birds are returning. This killdeer was at West Head, Cape Sable Island on the 1st of April. A splendid male indigo bunting adorned our yard at Clam Point on the 13th of April. A very big rarity was found by Mark at West Head, Cape Sable Island on the 21st of April. The European golden plover was a North America tick for us and likely a lifer for some of the other observers. It spent a few hours wandering the edges of a parking lot by the wharf, before disappearing, not to be seen again. A much appreciated bird by those who managed to get to see it. May started very well with a Nova Scotia tick Swainson's hawk, found by Rick Brown on Chebogue. It led us a merry dance on the 3rd of May until we eventually saw it, rather distantly. This footage is from the 13th of May when it was much more amenable to photography. The bird became fond of a perch on power poles behind the old dairy on Chebogue Road, and this became the most reliable spot to see it. A trip up the French shore to Annapolis Royal saw us divert to Digby to view a laughing gull that had taken up temporary residence there. We saw it on the 5th of May, picking around the parking lot of Sobeys supermarket. The French Basin Trail at Annapolis provided views of many species, including year birds such as sora and blue-winged teal. May continued in spectacular fashion when a female painted bunting turned up in Logan Moore's yard on Cape Sable Island on the 10th of May. A much enjoyed Cape Island bird for southwest Nova Scotia birders. In the meantime, our breeding birds were returning to Nova Scotia. Lake John Road on May 12 provided a nice selection. Eastern kingbirds were suddenly here. This one was on Chebogue Point on the 13th of May. Chestnut-sided warblers were also arriving. This grey catbird was in full song on the 16th of May in Yarmouth. It was nice to see and hear this normally skulking species. The Clam Point Yard scored again on the 22nd of May when a male rose-breasted grosbeak briefly dropped in for a snack. We were back to Chebogue Point on the 23rd of May to look for a Kentucky warbler found earlier by Ray Werschler. It was still there, in the farm garden, flitting around the bushes at the rear of the plot. It never came very close, but it was a pleasure to see. We don't get many. While at Chebogue, we took a look at the willows. There was nothing rare in there, but a Wilson's warbler is always worth a second glance. Also in the willows were a beautiful Canada warbler, alongside a blackpoll warbler, and an eastern wood pewee. The cliff swallows were busy building their nests above the barn door. Savannah sparrows are always common in summer at Chebogue. At the end of the month, we headed over to Prince Edward Island to look for the long-staying crested caracara. No footage of that is included since it isn't in Nova Scotia. On the way, we stopped for a look at Missaquash Marsh, on the New Brunswick border, getting black tern and bobolink for the year. June came in with a bang with a swallow-tailed kite in Dayton, Yarmouth, which was found by Tony and Angie Millard. We spent much of the 4th of June scouring the area and were lucky enough to see the bird briefly, twice. No good photos though. We'll have to make do with a red crossbill that was in our yard and a local great blue heron feeding in the pool at West Head. A cedar waxwing on Blanche Peninsula on the 14th of June. Two nesting brown creepers on Quinns Falls Road on the same day. The creepers were using a cavity under the burned bark of a tree, a casualty of the Barrington wildfire of 2023. It was good to see something useful coming out of that disaster. Finally, back to the yard for an American robin on the 18th of June. It was gathering lots of food, so maybe it was feeding young. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to our channel to make sure you see part 2. Oh, and don't miss Mark's eclectic take on birding memoirs, available as paperbacks or ebooks on Amazon.